Imagine, my friends, if someone offered you a chance to begin again, to hit the restart button on the most personal part of who you are. What if loving someone wasn't like a machine that stops working forever after breaking down once, but more like something you could fix, make better, and even redesign from scratch? This matters because the challenge of loving deeply is a lot like the challenge of moving humanity forward. Both ask us to see past our worries, past what we've lost, and look straight into the massive sea of what might be possible. If someone gave me another shot at love, I'd treat it the same way we treat designing spacecraft. The first test might blow up in flames, the second might crash before it reaches the sky, but each time we try, something important happens. We figure things out. We get smarter, we create something stronger. Loving isn't about getting everything right the first time. It's a process where you try, fail, and try again. Each round shows you more about yourself and what you're truly able to give. Most people think when a relationship ends badly, that's the final chapter. But the way I see it, it's information proof that your heart, just like your brain, can keep getting better. Here's the real deal. Trying to love someone again takes guts. It's unpredictable, risky, and nobody can promise it'll work out. But doesn't that sound like every big goal worth chasing? Nobody was sure we could make rockets land and fly again, but someone had to take that leap. Love works the same way. It's reaching for something that can't be measured by math or controlled by pure thinking. When we choose to love again, we're really saying, I trust in a tomorrow that doesn't exist yet. If I had the chance to love once more, I'd see being fragile not as something broken, but as the doorway to real closeness. We're living in a time that prizes being tough and independent. But if you're strong without being willing to open up, you don't build connections, you build barriers. Opening your heart again means accepting that yes, getting hurt is possible, but that's the only path to something genuine. There's a powerful book called Man's Search for Meaning that teaches us life isn't about dodging hardship, it's about discovering why the hardship matters. Love follows that same rule. It's not about running from a broken heart, but finding value in taking the risk. Learning to love again also means dropping the weight of yesterday. A spacecraft can't reach the stars if it's carrying too much baggage, and your heart can't reach new possibilities if it's stuck carrying old hurts. Hanging on to past sadness keeps you stuck on the ground, but when you let it go, you start to fly. Forgiving both the people who hurt you and yourself is the energy source that lets you lift off one more time. And after you take off, love stops being about finishing a race. So, not some final stop where someone's waiting with everything already solved. It's teamwork, like building something side by side. Two people who share the same dream can create something bigger than either could alone. It's not about using up happiness like it's fuel in a tank. It's about designing it together. If I could love again, I'd refuse to quit. I wouldn't give up after one rough patch. I wouldn't say love is hopeless, just because something didn't work out before. Sticking with it is what love is all about, just like sticking with it is what invention is all about. Every bump in the road tests not how much suffering you can handle, but how strongly you believe in what you're creating. So if I got the chance to love again, I'd be bold enough to try. Because being bold is how the world moves forward. Humans didn't get where we are by playing it safe, we got here by facing uncertainty head on. And love, which is the most amazing thing the human spirit can create, asks for that exact same bravery. The real question isn't if we're able to love again, it's whether we're willing to choose it. Because when we do, love stops being just a memory from our past. It turns into a test model for our future. What if someone handed you the option to start fresh, to reset the most important part of who you are? That's the thought I want us to sit with for a minute, because what if is the strongest tool we have for both creating new things and finding love. And every major breakthrough humanity ever made started with asking what if. What if we could light up the entire planet with electricity? What if people could soar through the air? What if computers could learn and reason? In that same spirit, love, especially after it's been damaged, abandoned, or forgotten, can only come back to life when we're brave enough to wonder, what if I could love again? This simple question isn't daydreaming or wishing on stars. It's about having the willingness to imagine hope where most folks only see dead ends. Asking what if plants the seed for creativity. In the fields of engineering and science, it's the question that opens doors logic can't unlock on its own. But when it comes to matters of the heart, it's the question that brings hope back after your world falls apart. Without asking this question, we stay frozen, doing the same things over and over, trapped by memories of what we lost. With it, we give ourselves permission to discover new territory. What if love wasn't some delicate thing that shatters once and never heals, but instead something like power itself, never gone, just changed into something new? What if your heart, like your mind, is built to adjust, to stretch, to learn something valuable from every mistake? And interesting, this simple question isn't daydreaming or wishing on stars. It's about having the willingness to imagine hope where most folks only see dead ends. Asking what if plants the ceiling, and I couldn't stop thinking about you. Yeah. These questions push us to stop seeing love as random luck and start seeing it as an act of bravery. It's not something that just randomly comes into your life. It's something you choose to build once more, even knowing full well it might sting. When you wonder aloud, what if I could love again? You're instantly face to face with fear. The fear of getting hurt again. The fear of someone turning you down. The fear of making the exact same mistakes all over again. These worries aren't tiny or meaningless. They're genuine and they press down hard on your soul. But when you ask what if, something shifts. Fear doesn't disappear completely, but the way you see it changes. Instead of fear being the period at the end of your sentence, it becomes just a pause in the middle part of what you're saying, but definitely not where your story stops. In my own work with technology, wondering what if has been where everything valuable begins. What if we could launch a rocket and use it again instead of throwing it away? People mocked the idea, had their doubts, and said harsh things. But the question mattered too much to forget about. And when we failed, which always happens when you try something bold, it wasn't proof the question was stupid, but evidence we needed to keep studying. The exact same logic works with love. If you've lost someone you cared about once, or even multiple times, asking, what if I could love again? Doesn't pretend the loss never happened. It wonders if that loss might be information, the learning experience that guides you towards something even more solid. Asking what if about love pushes us to see past what limits us today. It asks us to picture a future where your heart isn't locked up by regrets, but set free by imagination. It means daring to see yourself not as someone damaged beyond repair, but as someone who's changing and growing. Love isn't only about meeting the perfect person. It's about turning into the type of person who's able to love without holding back, completely, and without being scared. That journey starts not with being absolutely certain, but with having the guts to ask a question. The human spirit runs on possibility. That's exactly why stories, old legends, and even books like The Alchemist touch people so deeply. They show us that the treasure we're looking for usually means we have to set out on a new journey despite the dangers. To wonder, what if I could love again, is to crack open the door to that adventure. It doesn't promise everything will end happily, but it absolutely promises you'll grow, you'll explore, and your life won't stay frozen in the shadows of what you've lost. So the first move isn't doing something physical, it's using your imagination. It's the quiet but rebellious act of staring at your own hurt and having the courage to whisper, what if? That question becomes the spark. That spark grows into a vision. And that vision, if you decide to chase it, has the power to transform not just your heart but your whole existence. Understanding that love, like creating something new, is all about taking risks and showing courage is something most people run from. But it's the honest truth that shapes every worthwhile thing in life. Nothing amazing has ever happened without someone being willing to gamble. When you let yourself fall for someone, you're risking rejection. You're risking being vulnerable. You're risking exposing the deepest, most private parts of yourself to another person who might not treat it carefully. And that's exactly why love scares so many people to death. But isn't that identical to any idea that breaks new ground? When you invent something, when you challenge what people think is possible, when you dare to walk into the unknown, you're putting yourself out there to fail, to get criticized, to be completely misunderstood. Still, if nobody takes that step, nothing ever shifts. Think about how much guts it takes to build something from nothing. An engineer designing a machine that's never existed before knows it might fall apart, knows it could fail in spectacular fashion. Still, they keep going because they can see past the danger into what's possible. Love demands that same kind of seeing ahead. To love someone again after you've felt pain or after you've experienced loss is to declare, yes, I might fail again, but what I could discover is worth absolutely everything. The heart, exactly like invention, only pushes forward when it's willing to gamble. Staying safe might protect you from pain, but it also blocks you from experiencing the extraordinary. Courage in love doesn't always look like big dramatic moments or heartfelt speeches. Sometimes it's just deciding to trust. To trust again after trust has been shattered is one of the most courageous things anyone can do. It's like launching a rocket after it's exploded several times already. Logic screams stop. Fear yells protect yourself. But courage whispers try one more time. In life, we usually look up to people who take risks in business, in science, in art. But the biggest risk takers are often the ones who lay their hearts on the line despite the threat of heartbreak. Because bravery in love isn't just about chasing pleasure, it's about chasing truth, personal growth, and a bond that goes way deeper than surface attraction. When we look at stories throughout history, whether in books or real people's lives, love and courage can't be separated. Pride and Prejudice teaches us that pride can stand in love's way until courage tears down those barriers. Man's search for meaning shows us that meaning usually appears when we face suffering, not when we avoid it. These lessons stretch into how we handle relationships. Courage means you don't wait for absolute certainty before offering your heart. Certainty never shows up. What shows up is the moment, and your readiness to step into it without knowing what'll happen. There's also the risk of being misunderstood. When you love deeply, other people might not recognize the value of what you're offering. Just like early inventors often get dismissed by people around them, that doesn't mean your love was wasted. Every risk you take in love shapes who you are, teaches you lessons, and pushes the limits of your own humanity. Even if the relationship doesn't survive, the courage you showed becomes part of your identity, making you more capable of loving even better next time. To see love as a risk is to admit that being safe isn't the ultimate goal. To see love as courage is to understand that only by being bold can you find something truly extraordinary. The actual act of loving again after failure or loss is one of the most daring human decisions. It's not foolish or naive, it's visionary. It declares that love isn't just a single moment in your life, but an ongoing possibility as long as you're brave enough to make the leap. In the end, whether in science or in love, progress goes to those who risk, and greatness goes to those who dare. The idea that failing at love isn't the finish line but a rough draft for something greater is a viewpoint most people fight against, because pain tricks us into thinking endings are permanent. When a relationship crumbles, when trust breaks into pieces, or when someone we care about walks away, our natural reaction is to see it as total loss, a collapse we can't undo. But what if it's not? What if failing at love works the same way as failing at innovation? Painful, absolutely, but necessary information for what's coming next. A rough draft never exists to be flawless. It exists to teach. In the same way, a love that ended doesn't erase the chance of future love. It shows us what it takes to build something tougher, longer lasting, more genuine. In technology, rough drafts often look chaotic, incomplete, even ridiculous to outsiders. They might not work the way they were supposed to, but they still do their job. They expose what's broken. They point out weaknesses. They force the creator to dig deeper into understanding. If we could look at relationships through this same lens, we'd stop calling every heartbreak a permanent scar of failure. Instead, we'd recognize them as rough drafts, proof that our hearts are capable of trying, proof that we're figuring out what works and what doesn't, proof that we're evolving towards something more permanent. Think about the very nature of moving forward. Space exploration, electric cars, clean energy. None of these arrived in the world polished and complete. They came through testing, mistakes, redesigning, and refusing to quit. So why should love be any different? Every relationship shows us something, even when it doesn't last forever. It shows us our own strengths, our blind spots, our expectations, and how much we can forgive. Sometimes it shows us what we truly care about by revealing what we absolutely cannot tolerate. These lessons don't vanish just because the relationship ends. They move forward with us, shaping the blueprint of our next try, making the next design sharper, more thoughtful, more real. Failure in love also forces us to face parts of ourselves we might otherwise ignore. It reveals impatience, insecurity, pride, or fear. And while confronting those things hurts, they're exactly what allows us to grow. A relationship that failed isn't wasted if it teaches you how to listen better, how to speak more honestly, how to respect limits, or how to balance independence with closeness. The next time, those lessons become part of your blueprint, giving you a stronger base to build on. That's the hidden gift inside the rough draft stage. It prepares you for something greater than what you lost. Of course, this doesn't mean the pain is simple to handle. Just like an engineer feels the crushing weight when a rocket explodes after months of hard work, we feel the heaviness of heartbreak as though something precious has been destroyed forever. But here's what's true. Destruction isn't where creation stops. The actual act of loving, even when it doesn't work out, is proof that your heart is alive, capable, and willing. That willingness matters more than succeeding itself, because without it, nothing new can ever be created. Books like The Prophet show us that love is both happiness and sadness, both something that feeds you and something that empties you. And that's precisely what makes it life-changing. If you only want the happiness without risking the pain, you miss the depth of what love is meant to teach. To see failure as a rough draft is to understand that heartbreak isn't energy thrown away. It's progress wearing a disguise that looks like loss. So when love fails, it isn't where your story ends. It's a rough sketch, a blueprint, a prototype of the deeper love you're capable of creating. It might hurt, it might leave scars, but it also sharpens you, makes you stronger, and guides you towards something more meaningful. Just like no rocket reaches space without multiple failed launches, no heart reaches its fullest ability to love without going through the lessons that failure teaches. What feels like the ending is often the start of something far greater, if only we decide to see it that way. The understanding that being vulnerable isn't weakness, but actually strength is one of the hardest truths for people to swallow, especially in a world that often celebrates being tough, independent, and in control. We're taught to guard our hearts, to hide our emotions, to avoid showing anything that could look like fragility. Yet when it comes to love, the walls we construct to protect ourselves turn into the very obstacles that prevent us from experiencing it fully. Being vulnerable isn't about being fragile. It's about being open. It's having the guts to reveal the deepest parts of yourself to another human being, knowing there's always a chance of pain, but trusting that without that openness, there can be no genuine connection. When people hide their emotions, they might look strong on the outside, but inside they're often lonely, invisible, and disconnected. Real strength isn't about how well you can hide your heart, but about how bravely you can show it. Vulnerability is the entrance to intimacy. Without it, love stays shallow, transactional, and easily shattered. With it, love gets deeper, grows roots, and becomes something transformative. The ironic thing is that the very thing we're afraid of, revealing our insecurities, admitting what we need, confessing our fears, is what gives love its strength. By showing ourselves as we truly are, flaws in everything, we create room for another person to do the same. That exchange builds trust, and trust is what holds every lasting relationship together. Consider how inventors and explorers work. When you walk into territory nobody's charted before, you're vulnerable to failure, to mockery, to setbacks. But if you never put yourself at risk, you'll never discover anything new. In love, vulnerability is like stepping into the unknown. You admit that you don't have all the answers. You show that you can be hurt, and yet you offer your heart anyway. That's not weakness. That's the greatest show of strength, because it takes more bravery to open your heart than to lock it away. Many people think vulnerability means losing power, but actually, it's empowering. It lets you live authentically without the exhausting act of pretending to be invulnerable. When you say to someone, "This is who I am, with all my imperfections, with all my fears, with all my hopes," you're taking control of your own story. You're not waiting for approval or hiding behind a disguise. Instead, you're standing in the truth of your humanity. And that's where real love starts. Books like The Velveteen Rabbit teach us this simple wisdom. Love makes us real. And being real means being worn, imperfect, even scarred, but deeply alive. Vulnerability strips away the illusion of perfection. And in that stripping, we become more human, more relatable, more capable of receiving love. People don't bond with perfection. They bond with honesty. They don't bond with invincible walls. They bond with the courage to tear those walls down. It's also worth mentioning that vulnerability works both ways. When you open yourself up, you give permission for others to do the same. In a relationship, this mutual exchange is what creates depth. If both partners are constantly hiding behind pride, fear, or self-protection, they may dodge conflict, but they'll also dodge closeness. It's only when someone dares to say, "I'm scared, but I care," or "I've been hurt, but I still want to try," that the real relationship starts. To love without vulnerability is to build a house with no foundation. It might look beautiful for a while, but it can't last. To embrace vulnerability, however, is to pour the concrete that keeps the structure standing through storms. It's the hidden strength that allows love to weather rejection, misunderstanding, and even conflict. Because both people know that at the core, they're safe to be themselves. So, vulnerability isn't the enemy of love, it's its heartbeat. It doesn't make us smaller, it expands us. It's not a sign of weakness, but a declaration of strength, because it proves that we're brave enough to live and love fully, without hiding, without fear, without shame. The connection between love and vision, seeing beyond what is to what could be, is one of the most powerful truths we often overlook. Too many times, people limit their love to what's immediately in front of them: the circumstances, the flaws, the difficulties, or the disappointments of right now. But true love, like true vision, requires the ability to see further, to imagine beyond the current reality, to believe in potential where others see limitation. Love isn't simply about accepting the person as they are today, but also about believing in what they can become, in what you both can grow into together. When we think of vision in terms of progress and invention, it's never about what already exists. Visionaries aren't satisfied with how the world currently looks. They're driven by what it could look like if they dared to imagine more. When someone first said humans could fly, it sounded ridiculous until vision transformed it into airplanes. When someone imagined reaching the stars, it was dismissed as fantasy until rockets started breaking through the atmosphere. In the same way, love is powered by the same kind of visionary courage. It's about looking at someone with all their imperfections and still saying, I see what's possible in you, and I believe in it. Love without vision becomes stagnant. It gets stuck in complaints, in surface level judgments, in the frustrations of the moment. But love with vision has the power to transform. It looks beyond flaws and mistakes and sees the seeds of greatness inside another person. It's not about denying reality or pretending weaknesses don't exist. It's about believing that through patience, support, and faith, growth is always possible. This kind of vision is what allows love to last, because it doesn't collapse under the weight of temporary struggles. Instead, it sees struggles as part of the journey towards something more meaningful. There's a reason why many people give up on love so quickly. They only see what's wrong right now, forgetting that what's wrong today could be the soil for growth tomorrow. A visionary in love doesn't ignore problems, but chooses to see them as opportunities for evolution, just as inventors see failures as information. People who love with vision see challenges as opportunities to grow closer, to build stronger trust, and to deepen understanding. It's this forward looking perspective that transforms ordinary relationships into extraordinary ones. Love connected to vision also means you're not just living for comfort or ease. Vision stretches you, it forces you to grow. When you love with vision, you're not simply seeking someone who completes you. You're seeking someone who inspires you to expand, to evolve, to reach for more than what you thought possible. You see not only who they are, but who you can both become when you walk the path together. That's why vision is essential. Without it, love becomes about survival. With it, love becomes about creation. Books like The Alchemist remind us that dreams and destiny are tied to the ability to see beyond what's visible. The shepherd boy in the story didn't just see sheep in fields, he saw treasure. He saw purpose. He saw the journey ahead. In love, the same is true. You cannot just see the surface of a person, you must see the treasure within them, the future that can be unlocked through patience, faith, and shared vision. To love without vision is to settle for the ordinary, to remain stuck in cycles of disappointment and disillusionment. But to love with vision is to live in the constant awareness that the present moment, no matter how imperfect, is only the beginning. Vision allows you to believe in transformation, to hold on to hope, and to invest in possibilities that others might not even dare to imagine. And in that belief, in that forward looking faith, love finds its deepest strength. It's not about seeing only what is, it's about daring to see what could be and choosing to believe in it together. The necessity of letting go of the past to create space for the future is one of the hardest lessons when it comes to love. Human beings have a habit of holding on tightly to memories, to regrets, to the weight of what went wrong. We replay old conversations, we revisit mistakes, and we cling to the pain as if keeping it alive will somehow protect us from repeating it. But in truth, holding on to the past doesn't protect us. It paralyzes us. It keeps us trapped in a loop where yesterday's heartbreak dictates tomorrow's possibilities. Letting go is not about denying what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of what no longer serves you so that you can step into a new chapter with open hands and an open heart. Imagine a rocket trying to launch while carrying unnecessary weight. It will never break free from gravity. The burden keeps it grounded no matter how much power it generates. Our hearts are the same. If we carry the heaviness of betrayal, disappointment, or regret, we cannot rise into the possibilities of new love. We think we're protecting ourselves, but really we're chaining ourselves to the ground. Letting go of the past is the process of releasing that weight, not to erase the memory, but to reclaim your ability to move forward. Many people struggle with letting go because they confuse it with forgetting. Forgetting is impossible, and it's not even the goal. The goal is to transform the memory into wisdom rather than baggage. Every relationship, even the broken ones, offers lessons about who we are, what we value, and how we can love better. To let go is not to discard the lessons, but to carry the wisdom lightly, without the bitterness that poisons the future. You cannot build something new if every step is haunted by comparisons to what came before. Books like The Power of Now remind us that living in the present moment is the only way to experience peace and joy. The past is gone, the future is not yet written. When you live stuck in yesterday, you rob yourself of today's possibilities. In love, this means that every new opportunity becomes distorted by the shadows of old wounds. Someone smiles at you, but you doubt their sincerity because someone else once lied. Someone offers you care, but you hesitate to trust because someone else once betrayed you. This cycle keeps you from seeing what is real in front of you because your vision is clouded by ghosts from the past. Letting go requires forgiveness, both of others and of yourself. Forgiving someone who hurt you does not mean excusing what they did, it means deciding that their actions will not control your heart any longer. Forgiving yourself means accepting that you made mistakes, but also that those mistakes do not define you. You are not the person who failed, you are the person who learned. Carrying guilt, shame, or resentment only keeps the wound open. Letting go stitches it closed and allows healing to begin. The beauty of letting go is that it creates space. Space for new love, new experiences, new beginnings. When your heart is cluttered with the debris of yesterday, there's no room for anything else to enter. But when you release what no longer belongs, you open the door for something unexpected, something better, something aligned with who you are becoming. It is in that openness that love has a chance to grow again. Letting go does not happen all at once. It is a process, sometimes slow, sometimes painful. But every step away from the past is a step toward freedom. And freedom is the soil in which love flourishes. To cling is to remain stuck. To release is to rise. The future waits for those who are willing to unclench their fists, to drop what they can't carry anymore, and to step forward unburdened. In love, as in life, letting go is not just necessary, it is the only way to truly begin again. The role of resilience and persistence in matters of the heart is something most people underestimate. We live in a culture that glorifies instant gratification, quick fixes, and the idea that if something doesn't work out right away, it's not meant for us. But love doesn't operate on those terms. Love, like every meaningful pursuit in life, requires resilience, the ability to withstand pain, setbacks, and disappointment without giving up. And persistence, the willingness to keep showing up even when it feels hard. Without these qualities, love cannot survive. With them, it can grow stronger than we ever imagined. Resilience in love means you don't allow one heartbreak to define your entire story. It means you refuse to let a failure convince you that love is impossible for you. Just as innovators don't quit after their first attempt collapses, lovers cannot quit on the very essence of what makes us human. Every rocket that exploded before reaching orbit was not a sign that space was unreachable. It was a step toward the day when it finally soared. In the same way, every broken relationship, every disappointment, every time you felt let down in love is not evidence that love is impossible. It's proof that you are in the process of learning, adapting, and becoming capable of something greater. Persistence is the daily commitment to keep moving toward connection, even when it feels uncertain. In relationships, it means choosing to communicate when silence would be easier, choosing to forgive when holding a grudge feels safer, and choosing to love when walking away seems like the less painful option. Persistence is not about staying in unhealthy situations. It's about refusing to let fear, pride, or pain stop you from trying again. To persist in love is to declare that love is worth the effort, that it is more valuable than comfort, and that its rewards far outweigh its risks. When you look at the great stories of progress, they are never smooth, straight lines. They are full of setbacks, doubts, and obstacles. The Wright brothers failed countless times before achieving flight. Edison tested thousands of materials before inventing the light bulb. These stories are celebrated as examples of genius and determination. Yet in love, we often expect perfection on the first attempt. If it fails, we convince ourselves it's over. But love, like innovation, is a process of trial, error, and resilience. Every attempt shapes us. Every failure prepares us. Every persistence refines us. Resilience also means healing instead of hardening. Many people, after being hurt, respond by building walls, vowing never to open their hearts again. They think this is strength, but it is actually surrender. True resilience is not about never being wounded. It is about choosing to rise after being wounded. It is about allowing pain to stretch you without breaking you, to teach you without defining you. When you refuse to let heartbreak close your heart, You embody resilience at its highest level. Books like Man's Search for Meaning remind us that the human spirit is capable of enduring suffering and still finding purpose. That same truth applies to love. Resilience gives you the strength to endure heartbreak and still believe in the possibility of love. Persistence gives you the drive to seek it, to build it, to fight for it. Together, they form the backbone of every lasting relationship. Love is not for the faint-hearted. It demands a kind of courage that keeps going when logic says stop, when pain says protect yourself, and when doubt says give up. Resilience whispers, you can heal. Persistence whispers, you can try again. And when these two voices combine, they create a song of hope that drowns out fear. That is why love, when approached with resilience and persistence, does not just survive setbacks. It transforms through them, becoming deeper, stronger, and more unshakable than before. The truth that love is not just about receiving, but building something together is one of the most transformative realizations a person can have. Too often, love is viewed as a source of personal gain, a way to satisfy emotional needs, a means to feel valued, or simply a place to find comfort. While these aspects are natural and even important, they are only part of the picture. Real love goes far beyond receiving. It is an act of building, constructing something new that could not exist without the contribution of two people working together. It is less about consuming what another person gives you, and more about co-creating a life, a vision, and a shared future. When people enter relationships with the mindset of only receiving, they quickly become disillusioned. They expect constant validation, endless attention, and fulfillment of their desires. But the truth is that no one can carry the weight of someone else's completeness. A healthy love is not about one person pouring endlessly while the other only takes. It is about mutual contribution. Each person brings their strengths, their perspectives, their dreams, and even their flaws. And together they weave these threads into something bigger than either could have created alone. Think of it like building a home. One person may bring the bricks, another may bring the design, and together they lay the foundation and construct walls that protect and nurture them both. That home would not exist if either one tried to do it alone, nor would it stand if one partner contributed everything while the other remained passive. Love is that home, and it requires equal dedication. It is not perfect, and sometimes the walls crack or the roof leaks, but the beauty lies in the act of repairing together, of committing to the process of maintaining and improving what you've built. In innovation, this same principle applies. Great achievements are rarely the product of one person's efforts. They are the outcome of collaboration, of teams working in harmony, solving problems together, and pushing each other toward excellence. Love mirrors this process. It is a partnership in the truest sense of the word. It means celebrating victories together, shouldering burdens together, and never forgetting that the strength of what you build depends on the effort of both parties. The beauty of building love together is that it requires active participation. It is not enough to simply feel affection or attraction. Those are sparks. But sparks alone do not sustain a fire. You have to tend to it, nurture it, feed it, and protect it. Love that is built rather than passively received is resilient because it has roots. It can withstand storms because both partners have invested their energy and faith into it. It becomes a creation, a living entity that grows stronger with time and effort. Books like The Five Love Languages remind us that people express and receive love differently, and the act of building together often means learning to speak each other's language. It requires sacrifice, compromise, and patience. Sometimes you give more than you receive, and other times you receive more than you give. But the balance over time comes from the shared commitment to keep building. When you shift from the mindset of receiving to the mindset of building, your entire approach to love changes. You stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can we create? You stop measuring love by how much it satisfies your needs, and begin to measure it by how deeply it transforms you both. You see disagreements not as threats, but as opportunities to strengthen the structure you're building together. You see challenges not as reasons to quit, but as chances to prove the durability of your foundation. Love is not meant to be static. It grows, evolves, and demands ongoing effort. To love is to be an architect, a builder, a caretaker of something sacred. And the reward is that what you build together becomes a sanctuary, stronger, richer, and more meaningful than anything either of you could have built alone. In this way, love is not just a gift you receive. It is a creation you commit to shaping day by day with courage, vision, and devotion. To love again is to recognize that healing and transformation are not linear, but they are always possible. Many people carry the scars of heartbreak, betrayal, or loss, and those scars whisper to them that love is dangerous, that opening up again is foolish, that the risk of pain outweighs the hope of joy. But the truth is, choosing to love again is not about erasing the past, nor is it about pretending that wounds never happened. It is about allowing the heart to rediscover its own strength, to find courage in vulnerability, and to understand that every ending is also an invitation to a new beginning. When you love again, you are not starting from zero. You bring with you everything you have learned, the lessons, the insights, the resilience that hardship has carved into you. The pain that once felt like a weight now becomes a kind of wisdom, guiding you to love with more patience, more depth, and more honesty. It is not about repeating the same mistakes, but about evolving, about loving with open eyes rather than blind hope. Love after loss is not naive, it is brave. It acknowledges the risks, but chooses the possibility of beauty anyway. Transformation through love is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience. Think about how often people describe themselves as changed after finding love again, not because the other person magically completed them, but because love opened parts of them they had closed off. Love has a way of softening the edges that pain has hardened. It breathes life into places we thought had gone numb. It reminds us that we are capable of more than survival. We are capable of thriving, of feeling joy, of giving freely without fear that we will be emptied. Healing does not mean forgetting what hurt you. It means integrating it into your story in a way that no longer defines you. When you love again, you accept that the past is part of who you are, but you no longer let it dictate who you will become. Instead, you let love become a tool of restoration. In the same way that nature restores itself after fire or storm, the heart restores itself through connection, through the courage to trust, through the decision to try again. Books like Man's Search for Meaning remind us that the human spirit is capable of enduring unimaginable suffering yet still finding purpose. In love, this principle is just as true. Even in the aftermath of heartbreak, there is purpose in choosing to open your heart again. That purpose may be growth, companionship, or the creation of something beautiful that the world would have lacked without your courage. The healing that comes from this choice is not only personal, it ripples outward. When you heal, you become a safe space for others. When you love again, you show others that renewal is possible. Transformation through love also requires trust. Not blind trust in others, but trust in yourself. Trust that you have grown, that you can discern more wisely, that you can set healthier boundaries, that you can recognize red flags, but also that you can recognize genuine love when it presents itself. Trust that you are worthy of giving and receiving love, no matter what has happened before. This self-trust is the foundation upon which healing stands. Without it, you will always second-guess, always fear, always sabotage. With it, you can enter love with confidence, not arrogance, but the quiet assurance that you are prepared for both the beauty and the challenges it brings. Ultimately, to love again is to say yes to life itself. It is to declare that you will not allow pain to have the final word. It is to honor your past without being chained to it. It is to step forward into the unknown with an open heart, knowing that you may hurt again, but also knowing that the joy, growth, and connection that love offers make every risk worthwhile. Love is the boldest act of faith we can commit to, and when we choose it again, despite everything, we become living proof that the human heart is not fragile. It is extraordinary. So the question isn't whether we're capable of loving again, it's whether we'll make that choice. Because when we do, love stops being merely a memory from our past. It transforms into a blueprint for our future. And that blueprint holds unlimited potential. Consider for a moment how love, when approached with intention and wisdom, becomes a force that reshapes not just two people, but the world around them. When two individuals commit to building something together, their combined energy creates ripples that extend far beyond their relationship. Children witness what healthy love looks like. Friends see that lasting connection is possible. Communities benefit from the stability that genuine partnerships provide. This is the power of love, when it's built with purpose, rather than just felt as an emotion. The journey of loving again teaches us humility. It shows us that we don't have everything figured out, that we're still learning, still growing, still becoming. And there's something beautiful in that admission. When you approach love with humility instead of arrogance, you create space for grace, both giving it and receiving it. You understand that your partner, like you, is imperfect and still evolving. This understanding becomes the foundation for patience, forgiveness, and lasting commitment. What makes love extraordinary isn't the absence of problems, but the commitment to work through them together. Every couple faces obstacles, miscommunication, different priorities, external pressures, personal struggles. The difference between relationships that thrive and those that crumble isn't whether difficulties arise, but how partners respond when they do. Do they turn toward each other or away? Do they see challenges as opportunities to strengthen their bond or as reasons to retreat? The choice they make in those moments determines everything. Think about the concept of emotional safety in relationships. This might be one of the most underrated yet crucial elements of lasting love. When you feel emotionally safe with someone, you can be completely yourself without fear of judgment or rejection. You can share your dreams without worry they'll be mocked. You can admit your fears without concern they'll be weaponized against you later. You can make mistakes and trust that you'll be met with understanding rather than condemnation. Creating this kind of safety requires both partners to be vigilant, protective, and intentional about how they treat each other's vulnerabilities. The role of communication in love cannot be overstated. But communication isn't just about talking, it's about truly hearing, understanding, and validating. It's about saying what you mean while respecting how your words will land. It's about asking questions when you don't understand rather than making assumptions. It's about checking in regularly, not just during crises, but in the calm moments too. Good communication is like maintenance on a vehicle. You don't wait until it breaks down to pay attention to it. You tend to it consistently, keeping everything running smoothly. There's also something profound about learning to love someone through seasons of change. People evolve over time. The person you fell in love with at 25 won't be exactly the same at 35 or 45. Their interests may shift, their perspectives may deepen, their priorities may reorganize. The question becomes, can you love who they're becoming, not just who they were? Can you support their growth even when it means they're changing in ways you didn't anticipate? This is where true partnership reveals itself, in the willingness to grow together rather than apart, to celebrate evolution rather than resist it. Love also teaches us about boundaries. Healthy love doesn't mean losing yourself in another person. It means maintaining your identity while building something shared. It means knowing when to say yes and when to say no. It means understanding that you can be deeply connected to someone while still honoring your own needs, dreams, and space. Boundaries aren't walls that keep love out. They're guidelines that keep love healthy. They ensure that both partners can thrive individually while also flourishing together. When you love again after loss, you bring a different quality to the relationship, a deeper appreciation. You don't take things for granted the way you might have before. You notice the small kindnesses. You cherish the ordinary moments. You understand that nothing is guaranteed, and that makes you more present, more grateful, more intentional. This heightened awareness transforms everyday experiences into something precious. A shared meal becomes sacred. A quiet evening together becomes treasure. A simple I love you carries the weight of everything you've learned about how fragile and beautiful love truly is. The concept of choosing love daily is worth exploring. Love isn't just a feeling that sweeps you away and carries you forever without effort. Love is also a choice, a decision you make again and again. On days when you're frustrated, when you're tired, when external pressures mount, you choose to show up with kindness. You choose to see the best in your partner even when they're not at their best. You choose commitment over convenience. These daily choices accumulate over time, building a foundation so solid that temporary storms can't shake it. There's wisdom in understanding that love doesn't solve all your problems. It's not a magical cure for loneliness, insecurity, or past trauma. Those are internal challenges that each person must address within themselves. What love does offer is companionship on the journey of healing and growth. It provides support, encouragement, and a safe place to land when the work gets hard. But the work itself, the personal development, the healing, the self-awareness, that's each individual's responsibility. When both partners understand this, they stop placing unrealistic expectations on the relationship and instead see it as a partnership and mutual evolution. The art of celebrating each other is something that keeps love alive. It's easy in long term relationships to focus on what's missing or what needs improvement. But what about actively celebrating what's right? What about acknowledging your partner's strengths, their efforts, their growth? What about expressing genuine appreciation for who they are and what they bring to your life? Celebration doesn't have to be grand gestures. It can be as simple as noticing and naming what you value. I appreciate how patient you were today. Or I'm proud of how you handled that situation. Or I love the way you make me laugh. These moments of recognition and celebration create a culture of positivity that sustains love through difficult seasons. Another crucial aspect of lasting love is learning to navigate differences with grace. No two people are identical, and that's actually a strength rather than a weakness. Different backgrounds bring diverse perspectives. Different temperaments offer balance. Different strengths complement each other's weaknesses. The key is learning to view differences not as threats, but as opportunities to broaden your understanding of the world. When you can genuinely appreciate how your partner's unique way of thinking adds value to your life, you transform potential conflict into creative collaboration. There's also profound wisdom in understanding that timing matters in love. Sometimes two people are right for each other, but meet at the wrong time in their lives. One might be focused on career growth, while the other seeks deep commitment. One might be healing from past trauma, while the other is ready to fully open their heart. When timing is off, even strong connections can struggle. But when two people meet at a moment when they're both ready, emotionally available, self aware, and willing to invest, magic happens. The relationship has space to breathe and grow naturally. The practice of gratitude within a relationship creates a foundation of abundance rather than scarcity. When you focus on what you have rather than what's missing, your entire perspective shifts. Instead of dwelling on the one thing your partner forgot to do, you notice the 10 things they did beautifully. Instead of fixating on a minor annoyance, you remember the countless ways they show up for you. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring legitimate concerns. It means approaching them from a place of appreciation rather than criticism. This shift in perspective can revolutionize how you experience your relationship. Understanding that love requires both roots and wings is essential. Roots provide stability, safety, and commitment, the grounding that allows trust to deepen over time. Wings represent freedom, growth, and individual expression, the space that allows each person to remain whole and authentic. Relationships that are all roots become suffocating, where partners lose themselves trying to merge completely. Relationships that are all wings lack stability and commitment, floating aimlessly without anchor. The beautiful balance comes when both partners have deep roots in their commitment to each other while maintaining the wings to pursue their individual dreams and personal growth. Consider also the role of shared experiences in building lasting bonds. When couples create memories together, traveling to new places, trying new activities, facing challenges side by side, celebrating achievements, they're weaving a tapestry of shared history. These experiences become the stories they tell, the inside jokes they share, the reference points that define their unique connection. Over time, this accumulation of shared moments creates a sense of us, a partnership identity that's distinct from either individual but includes both. The ability to repair after conflict is more important than avoiding conflict altogether. Every relationship experiences disagreements. It's inevitable when two autonomous people share life together. What distinguishes healthy relationships from toxic ones isn't the absence of conflict, but how conflict gets resolved. Do partners fight fair, avoiding personal attacks and staying focused on the issue? Do they take responsibility for their part rather than playing the blame game? Do they seek understanding rather than just trying to win? Most importantly, after conflict, can they repair, genuinely apologize, forgive, reconnect, and move forward stronger? The repair process actually builds trust when done consistently and sincerely. There's something powerful about creating rituals together, small, repeated actions that become meaningful over time. Maybe it's morning coffee together before the day begins. Maybe it's a weekly date night that's protected no matter how busy life gets. Maybe it's a particular way you say goodnight or greet each other after being apart. These rituals might seem insignificant individually, but collectively they create rhythm, predictability, and connection in your relationship. They become anchors that keep you connected even during seasons when life feels chaotic or overwhelming. The journey of loving again ultimately comes down to this simple truth. Love is not about finding perfection, but about choosing partnership. It's about deciding that this person, with all their beautifully messy humanity, is someone you want to walk through life alongside. It's about committing to show up day after day, even when it's hard. It's about building something together that honors both individuals while creating something greater than either could achieve alone. And when you approach love with this mindset, as a choice, a commitment, and a continuous act of courage, you open yourself to experiencing one of life's most transformative forces. So, yes, loving again after loss is possible. Not only possible, but profoundly meaningful. It requires courage, vulnerability, resilience, and vision. It asks you to let go of the past while carrying forward its wisdom. It demands that you remain open, even when fear whispers that closing off would be safer. But the reward, deep connection, mutual growth, shared joy, and the knowledge that you chose bravery over fear, makes every risk worthwhile. Love is humanity's greatest innovation, and like all innovation, it belongs to those who dare. When we think about what it truly means to love someone deeply, we're really talking about seeing them, not just looking at them, but genuinely seeing who they are beneath the surface. This means noticing their hopes, their fears, their quirks, their patterns. It means paying attention to the small details that reveal their inner world. When someone feels truly seen by their partner, something profound happens. They feel safe enough to drop their guard, to stop performing, to simply exist as they are. This kind of witnessing is one of the greatest gifts we can offer another human being. The concept of emotional maturity plays a massive role in whether relationships thrive or merely survive. Emotional maturity means taking responsibility for your own feelings rather than expecting your partner to manage them for you. It means being able to self-soothe when you're upset instead of lashing out. It means recognizing when you're triggered by something from your past rather than something your partner actually did. It means having difficult conversations without resorting to manipulation, stonewalling, or cruel words. When both partners bring emotional maturity to the relationship, they create an environment where growth flourishes naturally. There's also something beautiful about the concept of growing old together. Not just aging in the same house, but truly growing together. This means evolving in ways that keep you connected, rather than pulling you apart. It means supporting each other through life's major transitions, career changes, health challenges, losses, victories. It means creating new shared dreams as old ones get fulfilled or fade. Growing old together is about building a history so rich, so layered with memories and meaning, that your bond becomes unshakable. The power of laughter in relationships cannot be underestimated. When couples can laugh together at silly jokes, at themselves, at life's absurdities, they create a buffer against stress and hardship. Humor lightens heavy moments. It reminds partners not to take everything so seriously. It creates joy in ordinary moments. Couples who maintain their sense of playfulness, who can be goofy and lighthearted with each other, often weather storms better than those who approach everything with grim seriousness. Understanding love languages, the different ways people give and receive love, can transform a relationship. One person might feel most love through physical touch, while their partner expresses love through acts of service. If they don't understand this difference, both might feel unloved despite both actively loving. Learning to speak your partner's love language, even when it doesn't come naturally to you, demonstrates genuine care. It shows you're willing to step outside your comfort zone to make them feel cherished. The practice of intentional appreciation, actively noticing, and expressing gratitude for your partner keeps relationships vibrant. It's easy to take familiar people for granted, to stop acknowledging the everyday things they do. But when you make it a habit to notice and name what you appreciate, thank you for always making me laugh, or I appreciate how hard you work for our family, or I love how patient you are with me. You create a culture of recognition. Your partner feels valued, and you train your brain to focus on the positive aspects of your relationship. Accepting influence from your partner is another cornerstone of healthy relationships. This means being willing to be changed by them, to let their perspectives shape yours, to consider their needs when making decisions. It's not about losing yourself or always giving in. It's about recognizing that partnership means mutual influence. When both people feel heard and considered, when both feel their input matters, the relationship becomes truly collaborative. There's profound beauty in the concept of choosing your person again and again, not just on your wedding day or when you first commit, but in the hundreds of small moments that follow. Choosing them when they're grumpy and difficult, choosing them when other options seem easier or more exciting, choosing them through seasons of distance or disconnection, trusting that you'll find your way back. These daily choices, accumulated over time, create a love that's not based on feelings alone, but on steadfast commitment. The willingness to seek help when needed, whether through couples therapy, relationship books, or wise mentors, shows strength, not weakness. Every relationship hits rough patches. Sometimes you need outside perspective to break destructive patterns or learn new communication tools. Partners who can admit we need help and work together to improve their relationship demonstrate the kind of humility and dedication that makes lasting love possible. Ultimately, the journey of love, especially loving again after loss, is about radical hope. It's about believing that despite all evidence to the contrary, despite past pain, despite uncertainty about the future, love is worth pursuing. This hope isn't naive or blind. It's informed by wisdom, strengthened by resilience, and grounded in self awareness. It's the kind of hope that says, I know this might hurt, but I also know that staying closed off would hurt in a different, deeper way. It's the hope that declares life is meant to be lived fully, hearts are meant to be opened, and connection is worth every risk. So if you're standing at the crossroads, wondering whether to risk your heart again, know this: you are capable, you are worthy, you have learned and grown from everything you've experienced. And on the other side of fear lives the possibility of a love that's richer, deeper, and more authentic than anything you've known before. The question isn't whether you can love again, the question is whether you'll give yourself permission to try. And if you do, if you choose courage over comfort, vulnerability over safety, possibility over protection, you might just discover that the greatest love story of your life is still waiting to be written.